Is he there? Okay. All right. Thank you all for being here. We're just kind of waiting for some details to be taken care of, I believe. Feels good to take a deep breath. All right, so let's start with a little time of meditation, a little time of prayer. I have my singing bowl here. Just invite you to take a deep breath. Just breathe into the present moment. Knowing that where you are, the presence of God is. Just allow ourselves to center. I've talked with so many wonderful people this morning and maybe had a chance to get something to eat. And we tune into the spiritual food, the food that the Father provides, that food that comes from within, that well of water that Jesus referred to, that springs up to eternal life, that well of water that is always living in, through, and as us. I just invite you to breathe into this moment and know that where we are, God is. Where we are, the presence is. Whatever your concerns, whatever your requests, we bring them into this presence. And we know in this presence there is only one power and one presence, and that is God. And we know this presence blesses and anoints this time together. Blesses our fellowship, blesses all that we are and all that we do. And for this we give thanks. And we say together, and so it is. Amen. So good to have all of you here. Welcome. I'm Reverend Tim Lytle, and I believe over behind the computer, there she is Reverend Johanna Kelly. And if we could all just give our first names, starting right here. John. Tina. Jerry. Bonita. Keith. Joanne. Deetra. Johanna. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much. Johanna came for the first time this last Wednesday night. Had the joy of connecting with her. And so came today. Thank you. And those of you who are watching online, thank you for being with us. And thank you to Sean and our tech staff that help us with this. And Reverend Johanna and I are going to share some of the Unity basics, some of the basics about Unity Church of Hawaii, some of the basics about what we are, what we're about. And I want to introduce one of our board members, and this is the president of our board, Jerry. If you would come up here for a moment. So Jerry Denton is the president of our board. And could you tell us real briefly, Jerry, what is the board? What does it do? What is it about? What place does the board serve in this spiritual community?
So, by the way, thank you for being with us today. I've been on the board several times, and what's interesting is that it's evolved, but its basic mission has stayed the same. The board is made up of members of the church. We have to have been a member, and we have to fulfill the requirements that are required to become a board member. And Our intent and our service on the board is a 3-year term, and we can have up to 2 terms sequentially for 6 years. And in that period of time, we meet once a month, and our primary function is to look at the long-term goals for the church and the policies and programs, and look at how we can ensure that we're providing an environment that will be safe and will be financially stable, and will have policies in place that provide fairness and equality for everybody throughout the membership. The senior minister is also a member of the board, so there are 9 elected members who are elected from the membership, and then the senior minister is the 10th member. So he's a voting member of the board also. Boards have changed over years. This board is probably the most forward-thinking, is the most harmonious. We've gone through some changes to really help us learn how to work together and look at doing everything that we are trying to put in place as far as programs, policies, all based upon our mission rather than upon someone's personality or preferences. And then this, we hope, we know that this will provide continuity over periods of time. In the past, it's been a challenge for a board when a minister leaves and everyone has had an attachment to that minister, and we think the world's coming to an end. And this really, the truth is not. It's part of evolution. I've been on the board often enough to know that there is always change. And on the board, because every year there are 3 members elected, the board dynamic changes every year. But we have practices and policies in place to have a very harmonious environment from year to year to year.
That's right.
And we laugh a lot too.
We do. Thank you, Jerry. Let's give Jerry a hand. We really appreciate our board and the work that the board does. And Tina, are you able to hang out a while, or do you need to go soon? Can you hang out for a little bit? Okay. So, because Tina, our volunteer coordinator, is here, and she's going to tell us a bit about sacred service and ways in which people may engage in sacred service here. But I'd like, Reverend Johanna, are you able to move the slides?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to do.
Yes, yeah. So, all right, Emma Curtis Hopkins, who is called the Teacher of Teachers. I just wanted to give you a real brief little background about the Unity movement. And Reverend Johanna is our associate minister and also the administrator for our ministry. So she and I will be leading this together. We're a team. We have a lot of fun together. We have a lot of fun. And on spiritual things, she and I are so connected. On spiritual things, she and I are like, it's very rare to see somebody that you're just on this same vibe spiritually. Now, we don't agree on everything. But on spiritual things, we agree pretty much. and when we disagree, it's like, all right, let's talk about it. And because I work very collaboratively, and our whole mission, again, is that we are centered in God. So we start with that presence of God. Centered in God, we transform lives. And, that presence of God is what causes that transformation. We're about transformation. We're not about just playing a game or playing a role or doing the same rote things over and over. We're about real personal transformation and inspiring people, not just us here, inspiring people wherever they may be to make a positive difference in our world. We don't just say the world. You know, it's inferred, but this is our world. We're in this, and we're here to inspire people to make a positive difference in our world. That's what Jesus came to do, and that's what we're about. So Reverend Johanna and I work together as a team on that. Reverend Johanna comes to the board meetings as well as many other meetings. So we work closely together. Okay, back to Emma Curtis Hopkins. Teacher of teachers. She's called that because she was a teacher of people who became these leaders in what is called New Thought. Now, please don't confuse that with New Age, although people come here from all paths. So we have people who come here from New Age, from Christian, from Buddhist, from Hindu, from Muslim, from, you know, I've had people tell me, hey, I'm, you know, it's almost like, psst, I'm atheist. Is it okay for me to be here? I'm like, yeah, it's perfect. Of course, you're welcome here, you know. But they wonder, you know, is the place going to catch on fire or something? But no, whoever you are, wherever you come from, of course you're welcome here. So New Thought, the reason it's called that, it's a new thought about Jesus. It's really not new. I mean, it goes clear back to the roots of Jesus, clear back to the roots of Christianity. But that Jesus came here not as the great exception, but as the great example. So Jesus said in the Gospel of John, greater things shall you do that believe in me. Greater things shall you do. And I'm sure the disciples' mouths dropped open when he said that. And, you know, the things that Jesus taught was very much about following his path. You know, he said, follow me. He didn't say, you know, just stay at a distance, you know, because I'm holy and all that, but you aren't. He said, follow me. It's about following him on this path. So this new thought about Jesus is that we are here to follow the path of Jesus. We are here to follow Jesus as the way shower, as our elder brother. And Emma Curtis Hopkins was an early teacher that worked as an assistant to Mary Baker Eddy. Any of you ever heard of Mary Baker Eddy? Okay. Mary Baker Eddy is the founder of Christian Science. Emma Curtis Hopkins was her assistant, but Emma Curtis Hopkins started evolving and going further and going beyond that. And so, anyway, she then broke away from that. We have a lot of things in common with Christian Science and with other traditions, but she broke away from that and saw all these wonderful new teachers like Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. Can we show that next slide? Yeah. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore are the co-founders of the Unity Movement. And Myrtle Fillmore was given a diagnosis of terminal tuberculosis. She was told she'd have 6 months to live.
Myrtle?
Yeah, Myrtle and Charles. And Myrtle and Charles went to a lecture by a man named E.B. Weeks. And E.B. Weeks, one of the many things he said, he used, and this is a combination of a denial and affirmation. Denial is taking, we don't mean being in denial, but a denial is taking away power from something that's false that we don't want to give power to anymore. And an affirmation is then, okay, so we're gently sweeping away error, and in its place, we're putting in truth. And so this denial and affirmation, first is the affirmation. I am a child of God. Can we say that together? I am a child of God. And then the denial comes after that. Therefore, I do not inherit sickness. Can we say that together? Therefore, I do not inherit sickness. Now, this was very important to Myrtle Fillmore because she had been taught not only does she have fatal, terminal tuberculosis, she was taught she inherited it. That she inherited that from her family. Okay, that was what she was taught. That was the belief system. And because there were a lot of sickly people in her family and people who had had that. And so they thought it was inherited. But when she realized, I am a child of God. Now think of that. Does God have tuberculosis? Is God broke? Is God this or that? I am a child of God. Therefore, I do not inherit sickness. That truth just rang clear to her. And for the next 2 years, several hours a day, she would use that affirmation and denial as well to talking to all the organs of her body, asking them to forgive her for ever calling them weak or sick. And after 2 years, there was no sign of tuberculosis or any illness in her body whatsoever. Charles, who was a skeptic, and I like them both. So Myrtle is called the mother of unity. Charles was a skeptic. And he had studied philosophers and he had studied a lot of things. He wasn't impressed with the lecture by E.B. Weeks. He was like, eh. But he noticed the change, the transformation. Again, we're all about transformation. He noticed the transformation that was taking place in his wife, Myrtle. And then when she was totally healed and whole and no sign of sickness in her body, and Charles Fillmore had had a necrotic hip and had an injury and a shriveled leg, and he had these braces on his leg. That got his interest. He thought, well, yeah, he was skeptical, but hey, if that worked, let me try that. And so he began doing that prayer work with himself, with his body and with his spirit, getting in touch with the Father, getting in touch with God, getting in touch with what he called headquarters. That he was relying too much on outside circumstances. He was a businessman, and he came to believe that he had been relying too much on outside circumstances, and it was time for him to solely rely upon the power of God. And he got to the point where that leg was healed, where he could walk without those braces. And that shriveled leg, I know, it's wild stuff. They measured it. That leg actually grew as an adult. So, that is the birth of the unity movement. Now, Emma Curtis Hopkins, who we had up there earlier, was also the teacher of people like Ernest Holmes and Melinda Kramer and other people who were really big in this whole New Thought movement. And we're teaching this very personal connection with Jesus, very personal connection with God, but not where we're victims, not where we are suffering from the circumstances, but rather where we are the embodiment of the presence of God. that we can manifest and know in our lives the power of God. And so that's how we started. We started as a prayer movement. We're still a prayer movement. We have a 24-hour, and I'm probably skipping around here on our slide presentation. She's so good to work with. Sure. Can we give Reverend Johanna a hand? Unity Village. And Unity Village is this place in Kansas City, Missouri, that has its own zip code. It's its own municipality. It has its own mayor, has its own sheriff, and it's Unity headquarters. Anybody can go there. You can go there and visit. They have one of the first hotels in the whole country that was certified as a green hotel using environmentally safe practices in that hotel. And so Silent Unity is located here. Silent Unity is the prayer arm of the Unity movement that you could call any time, any day, 24 hours a day. And the easiest way for me to remember the number is 1-800-NOW-PRAY. For me, that's easy to remember. 1-800-NOW-PRAY. And they have prayer ministry people who are happy to pray with you and hold that in confidentiality. When my brother, who was going through 2 major surgeries in one day and received 50 units of blood and blood products in one day. So you get that. That's a lot. That's like changing the oil in your car several times in the same day. I got to the point where I couldn't be like the rock for my family anymore, and I just broke down, and I was sobbing, and I could barely see, and I called Silent Unity, and they prayed with me, and they knew the truth with me. Now, you can say what you will, and, you know, the wholeness and the presence of God is with us no matter what the circumstances. Your circumstances, you know, whatever they are, God is with you in it, whatever they are. But I'll just say that when I prayed with this person on the phone, at that time, things turned around because they were losing my brother in the surgery room. Right at that moment, his vital signs began to shift. And it gives me chills even as I think about it. We don't believe that miracles are just a thing of the past. We believe that's something that we can experience in our everyday present life. We don't believe that God ran out of juice 2,000 years ago and went on vacation and didn't leave a forwarding address. No, we know that God is totally present right where we are. And we often say this here, wherever we are, God is. We know that. We know it. So prayer is the foundation of Unity Ministries. And most Unity churches have a prayer chaplain ministry. We have a prayer chaplain ministry. In fact, we're going to have a prayer retreat.
We have flyers.
Oh, wow.
Sheets right here.
If anybody wants a flyer, we have what is the date of that, Reverend Margie?
Friday evening and Saturday the 13th.
So May 12th and 13th. So that's a Friday and Saturday. If anybody wants one of these, would you raise your hand and we'll get you information about the prayer retreat. And back there, Benita. And there's a sign-in sheet. Where is that, Tina? Down at Connection Central, down the steps and down through that entrance. This prayer retreat, which will be at St. Thomas Retreat Center, which from thank you, St. Anthony. Sometimes I relate with Thomas because he was the doubter. St. Anthony, thank you. St. Anthony Retreat Center. It is such a place of peace and beautiful and surrounded by mountains and gorgeous foliage. We're going to have an extraordinary time of prayer there, a time of prayer retreat and a time of getting together in deep prayer. So that's a core thing. Do we have another slide, Reverend Johanna, about daily word and those books? How about the books? Thank you for kind of following me here. So, yep. Yeah, here's a couple. I mean, Unity has tons of books. Here's a couple of them that I would highly recommend. Discover the Power Within You, which is written by Eric Butterworth, Unity minister for many years in our movement, who writes about discovering this presence living in you. And then Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. This was the first book Unity ever published, and the Unity movement started in the late 1800s. So powerful books, but there's lots of books and things. And Reverend Johanna, I'm talking too much. I want you to say a little bit. And by the way, I want to introduce also Reverend Margie Hyatt, who is a Unity minister and is the leader of our spirit groups. We want to invite you into those spirit groups. Those sign-ups are down at Connection Central as well. Oh, you want a mic? Here's a mic if you want to say something. Right here.
Thank you, sir.
So in case anybody missed my pitch, spirit groups are a small group ministry, part of our community. You have one, right, Keith? Do you need another one? Okay. And we are beginning a cycle. They run from 7 to 10 weeks, meeting once a week. And at this point, we have 5 on the menu, and 4 of them will meet on Zoom. So from wherever you are, you can join in. And one will be meeting in a member's home here on Diamond Head Circle.
Right down the street.
Thank you. The point of small group ministries is to bring an intimacy to our spiritual journey, to have a team, a partnership of a small group of people for the period that the group exists, to study something in spiritual depth. You can see the subjects there are described. To be together as small community, to create relationships, to support one another through the changes of our lives, and to be of service in our community, whether that is in a project here at the church, or maybe you want to venture out and do something in the greater world, support another nonprofit organization or some social justice action. You could decide anything. The possibility is really almost endless. And we also want to be challenging ourselves in our own spiritual journey, to be reaching for that next piece of growth, that next step forward in our own evolution. And the point of spirit groups is to provide a vessel for all of that to happen in relationship with a group of fellow spiritual travelers together. So you can sign up next Sunday. As Tina said, she's got the registration forms today, still down at Connection Central. And join us in this expansive journey. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Margie. Reverend Johanna, what would you like to share with us about Unity teachings, Unity belief? What would you like to share with us?
Okay. Well, I'd say I think I'm going to just do a continuation of what I was speaking about earlier in service. And it's especially those that are brand new to this community that are just hearing about us for the first time or questioning like where they're at in life and how they can just, I call it up-leveling, but just really dissolving our BS, our belief systems that maybe as children we were given or throughout young adulthood or what have you, or what the world says you should believe, and really know that this movement is, you know, as Reverend Tim said, it started out as a healing and prayer movement. This is what we're about. It's because we are so connected to that divine source. God, whatever you know God to be, big enough to get on or take on whatever name that you give it. But just knowing that divine spark that's within you, we are here to just allow you to remember that, or just to show you that it can be remembered, that miracles do happen, whether it's healing of relationships, a health crisis, financials, whatever that area in your life looks like, that it can be done. When I started here 10 years ago this year, actually, was when I first showed up here at Unity Church of Hawaii.
10 years ago when?
September.
All right.
September 27th. So actually really October. But I started with the Wednesday prayer meditation service. I was a deep seeker of truth. I was going through a terrible relationship crisis, moving from Europe to here. And I heard about the teachings of unity and new thought. And I actually, when I was in Germany, was applying them and getting results because my mind was shifting. It's not that there's some, magic this or whatever. It's just the power of your mind, the power of your spoken word, and the power of truth. And when you can realize that truth within you, all manner of things start to adjust, start to dissolve, whatever needs to happen. So I started with Wednesday prayer meditation. And I would go to the burning bowl station. I just did all the ritual stations. And I started to see within a matter of weeks things changing because I was changing. And so because I was a different person, my experience had to be different as well. Because I was aligning with the truth of who God is and who I was in, through, and as that presence, everything, the entire universe conspired because I was part of that. And because that change was occurring, things started to look differently in my world. 10 years later, I'm still applying it when I can, when I remember. And the thing is that it's called the work for a reason. At times, you may forget that divinity within, and life may appear less than desirable. But when you can remember the teachings, especially, I would say, to me personally, Lessons in Truth speaks to me, even though it was written back when, but I understand just kind of the old, I don't know, it's not Old English, but is it old English?
Yeah, older style.
Yeah, older style. I don't mind. And it just speaks to me in a way where it just starts to kind of pick out those belief systems that don't even make sense anymore. Just because my parents told me something, or my teachers, or my friends when I was 12 years old, doesn't make it true. It's just what they perpetuated in their own lives. And when I started to take on something new, which Unity Church of Hawaii, Unity Movement, and New Thought Movement in general, that's what it's telling you to do, to clothe yourself with a different level of understanding. You will see results in your life. That's the thing, is that I don't speak it and then, not see anything. Because I've seen results in my life, because I've had miracles happen, because there's been healings, because I've been able to, transcend a lot of the things in my life that used to weigh me down, I can now speak to it. And I hope that you get the gems and the blessings of this community. Utilize all the resources we have, whether it's prayer, whether it's spirit groups, whether it's a sacred service, volunteer opportunity. All of these opportunities that we have here at Unity Church of Hawaii help to uncover the gem, the beauty, the spark of divinity that is you. That's all I have.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Johanna. Let's see, Reverend Johanna, could you go back to the slides that are right after the picture of Myrtle and Charles? Okay, so, all right, so if we could advance that and advance it. All right, so this is a picture of Unity Village, It has a fountain. Kansas City is called the City of Fountains. And Kansas City, Unity Village has the largest display of fountains in Kansas City. These fountains are the length of a football field. And, it's absolutely gorgeous there. If we could see the next picture. So here's a kind of a drone picture of Unity Village. So it's a gorgeous place to visit. Hopefully someday, I was going to say we could get a bus trip. It's a little hard to get a bus trip from here. A field trip. All right, if we could see the next picture, please. So here is an even larger overview. And it's like 1,400 to 1,500 acres. And it has trails. It has a nature preserve. It's an absolutely gorgeous place. Has a 9-hole golf course and very beautiful place. So next slide, please. All right. So we're going to mention these briefly, or maybe Reverend Johanna wanted to go in a little more depth. I don't know. But you'll hear us talk about the 12 powers. You'll hear us talk about these innate powers that are in each one of us today or this month. And this is arranged a little differently than the way we do it. Typically, we celebrate love in February and wisdom in April. But in any case, it's these 12 powers that are aligned with the 12 apostles. And we're looking this month at the power of wisdom, which is in orange. And it tells you which of the apostles we align that with. And then what center in the body where we experience that. Now, in Western culture, sometimes, they think wisdom comes from the head. Well, here we have pit of the stomach. Like, have you ever heard the question, what does your gut tell you? Like this inner wisdom that comes from within. It transcends cerebral knowledge. But I'm sorry?
Wisdom of the na'au, your belly.
Oh, all right. Wisdom of the na'au.
Na'au, his
Belly. All right. I love that.
Charles knew what he was talking about.
Charles knew. So it's about experiencing those. Oh, do we have a bunch of copies of this? Oh, thank you. So Tina has copies of this. If anybody wants a copy of the 12 powers, just raise your hand and Tina can bring that to you. And so you can look at those. Anything else? Reverend Margie? Oh, let me get you a mic. As we are online too.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
One of the spirit groups, the group that meets on Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m., they are working with a book called Divine Audacity,
Yes.
which is introduction to the system, our spiritual system of 12 powers. Think of it as your annual spiritual toolkit.
So which spirit group is that?
Cindy Hensley,
Oh.
Tuesday, 4 p.m. on Zoom.
Great. So all these spirit groups, are they listed in the sign-up? Yes.
That's what this information page is. There's one on Monday evening where I'll be introducing a spiritual technology called, I call it dreamscaping, or it's conscious dreaming. Accessing the same state of mind where you dream at night, conscious, awake, guiding the dream journey yourself and allowing it to unfold. Tuesday is Divine Audacity with Cindy Hensley online. Mm-hmm. That's the one about 12 powers. Reverend Tim, Wednesday, a deeper dive, a more expanded discussion of the Sunday sermon. Reverend Levitt Thomas and his wife
Wonderful.
Diana are doing the power of forgiveness, a key spiritual practice. And Marcia Zena Major, who wrote The Hidden Kingdom and other books, and Marcia did a a review of her
Excellent
work.
presentation last night. It was powerful.
She said that would be available. It was recorded and to see online. Okay.
Yeah. I'll share the link with you, Reverend Johanna. Hopefully we can get that on our website, the presentation from
Okay.
last night.
And so she's going to take you through a journey of that hidden kingdom, which is understanding the spiritual power in nature, which is, of course, also in ourselves. It sounds like it's going to be very exploratory as I was talking with her.
Perfect.
So those are the menu options.
Thank you. Well, that's awesome. All right. So the 12 powers, and you'll hear more about that, but, we wanted to at least kind of call it out so you knew that's something we talk about a lot. Like Scripture says, Jesus called his 12 apostles to him. We not only see the literal surface message of what's in Scripture, but we also look at how does that speak to what is happening in our own consciousness. So when the Christ of our being is calling to itself these 12 powers, then we can fully reveal that Christ consciousness in the world. By the way, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to raise your hand and ask a question. Sometimes when I've taught these kind of classes, I have called them everything you've ever wanted to ask about unity. So feel free to ask. All right, can we go to the next slide? All right, we did that already. All right. So who is called the teacher of teachers? I talked about her right at the beginning. Emma Curtis Hopkins. There you go. All right, now we haven't talked about the 5 principles. Did we lose those?
I don't think so. I was trying to find out where they are at.
Okay.
I'm just going to go.
Maybe they're not there. There they are. Okay. The first one, there is only one power and one presence. God is all there is. As Eric Butterworth reminds us, there is no spot where God is not. So growing up in Church Nazarene, I was taught God is everywhere. I said, everywhere? Yeah, everywhere. Oh, wow. That was a real important concept for me to get, And that means then the second principle, therefore this one power and presence lives as each one of us. I mean, if God is everywhere, fully present, that doesn't exclude us. My life is an expression of that one power and that one presence. And then the third one, our consciousness determines how we navigate and experience life. In other words, the thoughts, the feelings that we nurture bear fruit in our lives. We are responsible for our consciousness. Repeat after me. We are responsible for our consciousness. Okay, let's do it in first person I. I am responsible for my consciousness. This is very, very important in unity teaching. That if we want our lives to change, it's not up to someone else. That we take responsibility to do our own inner work on consciousness. That everything starts in consciousness. Everything starts in consciousness. So if we want our lives to change, guess where we start? With ourselves. Sometimes I have had people come to me for marriage counseling, and they came without their spouse, and they wanted to talk about everything that needed to be fixed in their spouse. I said, well, sounds like they have a lot to work on, but since you're the one that's here, how about we work on you? We all have work to do, right? We have some processes in our I know. I'm talking to all of us here. I'm trying not to look at anybody. But we have some processes here. Like one of them is what's called quantum living, the quantum living process. And it is a class that we sometimes offer here, and there are others that around the country who teach this. And it helps us to identify our shadow side. And if you wonder, well, what's my shadow side? Well, your shadow side is what gets triggered. So, those things where you get angry, jealous, feel like someone or something is against you. Maybe you're at the line in the grocery store, and maybe the clerk triggers something in you, or let's get more real, maybe the person you live with, maybe maybe that primary relationship. Maybe they trigger something in you. Because, the more close the relationships, the more intense the mirroring. And typically what triggers us about other people is stuff in ourselves that we don't like. It's our suppressed shadow stuff. So the quantum living process is a way of identifying what is it that triggered us. What is going on? What are some of the shadows going on? Reverend Margie is a licensed quantum living coach, by the way. We should schedule one. And we have others here, Thomas Gallagher, Mary Paulson. So it's part of our curriculum. It's part of what we do, because when Jerry was speaking earlier from the board, he kept talking about how the board works really harmoniously together. It's true. He's not just blowing smoke. Because the board works, we work on ourselves. And if there's triggers, we look at it because we realize they are our triggers. And then we move from there to who is it that we are really here to be? Who is it that what is the divine wanting to do as my life? So we move from the shadow to what we're really called to be. So it's real important to take responsibility for that conscious work. Spirit groups is a very friendly way to do that, because you're there getting close to each other, getting to know each other, and building that spiritual connection. We also, on Tuesday nights, every Tuesday evening online at 6:15, have classes online in nonviolent, compassionate communication. So when we're triggered and, we're just wanting to slap somebody, we can practice with the nonviolent, compassionate communication and learn how to communicate in ways that are truly healthy, where we can get at the core of what's going on, take responsibility for our own feelings, and how to communicate. And the class that Joanne, right here, you want to hold up your hand? That Joanne is going to be teaching on Monday evenings. Now, May 7th or 8th, I don't know which one is a Monday.
The parenting?
Yeah, the parenting communication.
It's afternoon.
Afternoon at what time?
2:30.
1 to 2:30.
To help parents who are going to pick their kids up anyway come before they have to.
They can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So let me bring you a mic. Is Monday the 8th or the 7th?
It's the second Monday, because the first is the first, May 1st, and that's too much.
That's late.
Pilikia here in Hawaii. Yes, that's right. So it's 3 Mondays. Monday afternoon from 1 to 2:30. before parents have to pick up their children, so they're free. And yes, and the curriculum is on the handout sheet.
It's about communication.
Absolutely. And how to work with behaviors and communicate in a way that facilitate happiness in the home.
Right,
if you will.
compassionate communication.
Yes, right, yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. Let's give Joanne a hand. Yay. Thank you. And Joanne also has some classes on the shadow and so forth. So it's real important to us that you have lots of ways and events, classes, opportunities to experience transformation. Because we take responsibility for our consciousness. Number 4, through prayer and meditation, we realize and experience the one power and presence. So again, we know that prayer, meditation are ways in which we align with that, with God, with that divine presence. And 5th, we are the presence of God in action. We act on these principles. It's not enough just to talk about them. We demonstrate it. We live it in everyday life. Otherwise, what use is it? So it's practical. We live it out in the world. So the spirit groups will have a component to it about how do we live this out in the world. What is a project that we as a spirit group will take on to in some way reach out to the world or bless the world in some way, okay? That's very, very essential to who we are, what we are about in unity. Okay. Any questions? Thoughts? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Though this class is for parents and grandparents or teachers, teachers' aides, anybody who works with children, and it's about communication with a child, it's the child within as well as the child without.
Good. Thank you for that. That was an important thing to add. Thank you. All right. Anything you wanted to say about the 5 principles, Reverend Johanna? Or?
No.
All right. Reverend Margie.
5 simple ways to state these rules. God is, I am, think it, pray it, do it. Simple formula.
Say it one more time.
God is.
Let's say it. God is.
I am.
I am.
Think it.
Think it.
That's that consciousness thing. Pray it.
Pray it.
That's the connection, communion to God. Do it.
Do it.
Action. It's Nike. Just do it.
Good. Thank you, Reverend Margie. Excellent. All right, next slide. Who we are, okay? Starting at the left, we provide a philosophy that is more spiritual than religious. We come from a lot of spiritual traditions here. We are love-based, not fear-based. So those who are more into fear, sometimes, for some people, fear is an integral part of their spiritual belief. And but that's not what we're about. No, people are online, so they can't hear us unless we use the mic.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I grew up with a lot of Catholics. And so I was Christian by just whatever. Wasn't baptized at that point. But I noticed that not only the Catholics that I grew up with, but the Jewish kids as well, they all seem to have this, like a guilt thing, especially the boys that I knew that were my friends, that were just buddies. And that kind of put me off of
What age are
religion.
we talking?
Probably junior high, high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Boys have a lot of guilt about what they're experiencing at that point.
Yeah, and it was funny because all my girlfriends went to Catholic school, and my good friends, my buddies, they went to Catholic school too. So, yeah, I noticed that, and it kind of, even though I went to mass with them, because I wanted, I needed that spiritual then
Right.
in my life then. But the guilt thing was really a big deal, and it kind of put me off religion a little bit because I thought, people shouldn't feel guilty unless you've really done something bad. Then yeah, you should have a conscience. But to feel guilt over just kind of be bred into you is not not right. Yeah. So.
Right, thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, there's been a lot of traditions that have not only taught that kind of guilt, but have relied upon it as a means of power and control. And I would say not only guilt, but shame. And the difference or the distinction I make with guilt and shame is guilt is when I'm feeling bad about something I think I've done. Shame is feeling bad about who I think I am. And so I know growing up, I just felt like who I am is worthless. Who I am is broken. Who I am is horrible. And unfortunately, some of that gets instilled through religions. And again, I'm not against any churches, but we're not about that. We're about helping people to get in touch with that inner goodness, that presence of God, knowing that we're all the presence of God. Yeah, Reverend Margie. Oh, we need a mic. Where'd it go?
Matthew Fox said we were born as original blessings, not in original sin. I love that phrase.
Right. Yeah, in the book of Genesis, when it describes the creation of humanity, God said, let there be light, and there was light, and you have these various stages of creation. When you get to the creation of humanity, and in each stage, God said, it is good. It is good. And when it came down to creating humanity, God said, it is very good. There's a special emphasis placed on that. And so that's getting back to original blessing, that we were created as good. Some of us grew up in traditions that emphasized quite strongly about original sin. That was a real challenge for me growing up because I already felt bad about myself. And then I was told, oh, you were born in sin. I'm like, great. Yeah. Reverend Johanna, did you want to say something? You're holding the mic and you have that ministerial look on your face.
No, but now that I have this mic on, I was actually going to, it just hit me. So, who we are. I wanted to add on to what I was talking about earlier, but this movement really gets us out of this victim consciousness,
Right.
this guilt, this shame. When I can become owner and creator of my own world, believe me, that is, and I don't even know how I was living like 30 years beforehand. I was like, oh my God, I survived because I felt like I was at the mercy or something was happening to me and not through and as me. And when I took on this different mentality, when I took on this different mind, then I felt the power with that. And it's not this self-created power. This is just an innate power within each one of us. Eric Butterworth, discover the power within you. When you can live from a sense of you are the owner, the doer, you are being that, you are that, I am that, then life is different. I don't even know, I feel like I'm beating a horse that does not want to die, but maybe the wrong thing to say on this one. All right, but no animal abuse. But I feel like it's just like when you just really get into this and you start to discover who this community is and what we believe, your life will be transformed. Like there's no other way around it. When you start doing the work, it just happens. And then you get out of this something happening to me thing and blame and shame and all this other craziness that I know personally. had to release. And it's every day you just release it because these old beliefs do come up. And so once I notice like I'm producing fruits in my life that I don't like and I don't want to eat, then I realize that there is a belief behind that. There was a thought. I'm still holding on to some outworn things. And then I get to change my mind about it. I get to say no. I get to cast it out. I get to do whatever needs to happen. But I get to transform it into some experience that I wish to have, if I have the awareness. I know this past week I've been talking to Reverend Tim just a little bit about life or whatever. And I won't get into the detail. A lot. Hours and hours him and I have been having these spiritual conversations.
That's great.
There's a part of me where it still wants to be like, oh, woe is me, you know? And then I realize, like, then I'm purposely choosing the lower road or, you know, below the line. Like, I now know that I have a choice. I know now that I get to change my mind. I know now what a powerful creator I am because God is, therefore I am. And that's how these principles, you know, we can kind of tie them into our lives. And this is why we are, as it says, we are love-based, not fear-based, because once I realize that God is this all-loving, all-creation, it proves itself to you. I
love it. It's practical. That's why we call it practical Christianity.
Yeah, and we put it into practice, and
yeah,
that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Lowell Fillmore, who was the son of Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, said, take these beliefs, look at them. If something doesn't fit for you right now, fine. Just set it aside for now. But use the things that work for you. That this is a very practical approach to spirituality. This is a very practical approach to Christianity. It's about what really works in our lives. It's about that transformation. So any other comments, questions, Joanne? Okay.
It won't leave me alone. One of the books that I read in my early years when I first came to Unity was Emmett Fox's Sermon on the Mount.
Yes.
I thought, why in the world did I not see this how many years earlier? It was so profound for me, and I've read it more than once.
Right.
Maybe 3 or 4 times.
Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, gives you a whole nother lens.
Thank you. Keith? Mm-hmm.
Many of you know that I've only been here a few months, but very quickly I've been putting things into practice. And I read a book recently that is a unity-based scholarly book on the metaphysics of Jesus. And so it touches on this bigger story of the metaphysics behind the whole scene. And so with this issue of shame, it was pointed out that when Adam and Eve had their first fall, the first thing that they experienced was shame. So that was the birthright. That's the one generational birthright that's been given to mankind.
Right.
So it's something that each one of us has to overcome. But it's an illusion. And also the first thing that God did was he took Adam and Eve and separated them so that they wouldn't eat of the tree of life, for then they would have this knowledge for eternity. So there was a plan for redemption all along.
Right.
What people don't seem to understand a lot of times is that after Jesus left, he brought the Holy Spirit, which then speaks to every one of us, and all shame and all sin has been destroyed when he went to hell and sent light into it. And so the ideas that I've been seeing and that unity and what we're talking about is that coming to the realization that there is nothing to be afraid of. There is nothing holding us back. That divine peace is there, and we just have to accept it for the process that it is.
Right. Thank you, Keith. And we're so glad you're here with us. Another question. Yeah, Leah?
There's only 2 true emotions, love and fear.
Love or fear? Yeah, right. We choose love. Right, Reverend Johanna?
I try my best.
And this third one, we honor all paths to God, meaning that, you know, again, we have people who come to us from all different walks of life, but we honor all of those paths, and we believe in making a positive difference in the world. Okay, what's the next slide? Where are we at? Oh, the 3 yeses. Good. I want to talk about this. Now, no one here is required to be a member of this church. Well, if you're on the board. Or if you're the minister. But I mean, you can come here, you can be active, you can be a part of us. You don't have to become a member, but we make available to become, first of all, what's called a community member, which means, hey, I like what happens here. I like what this community is about. I can see how these principles work on my behalf. I can see that the mission and ministry of this church is something that does transform lives and does help people, you know? And so when people align with that, many times they say, well, okay, how do we get more involved? And one step certainly is to become what's first called a community member. And a person can move into community membership, and then after a year of community membership, can go into what's called governing membership. Governing membership means you can be on the board, you can vote, you can do this other stuff. Community member means that you're being part of this community and getting more involved and engaged in it. Keith just became a community member. And anyone else here? So, yeah, so there's several that have. And so there are three things we ask that people say yes to if they're interested in becoming a community member. The first one is we ask that you say yes to deepening your own spiritual practice by participation in classes, service, spirit groups, something, some transformative experience. We teach classes here. We've mentioned several of them. We haven't mentioned everything, but several things. So we ask, if one is becoming a community member, we ask that you say yes to engaging in something, some class or spirit group. And what classes you take, how involved you become is completely up to you. Secondly, we ask that you say yes to participating in some form of meaningful sacred service, which we'll get to in just a moment, in our ministry and or in the wider community. That is volunteer service, but we think of it as more than volunteering. This is sacred service. This is something we're really doing to serve God. This is something we're really doing to serve that divine presence, to express that presence of God. Lastly, so first, okay, a group, a class, say yes. Second, some form of sacred service. And if you're in a spirit group, that already covers two of those things, because you're getting involved in a spirit group and they will have a sacred service opportunity that they come up with. Lastly, we ask that you say yes to a designated level of monthly financial support of Unity Church of Hawaii. You decide the amount. We simply ask, and I'll explain this, we simply ask that your cooperative share be in integrity with your capacity to contribute to the overall operations of Unity. Once again, you decide the amount and how to make it automatic. We encourage making it recurring, automatic. Now, when we looked at the number of donors of our spiritual community and looked at our budget, it came down to about $250 per month per person. Not everyone is able to do that, Some people are able to do much more than that. So when we talk about the cooperative share or spiritual cooperative, we're just talking about each person contributing as they are able and making it a regular recurring gift. So I did this online. I went online to unityhawaii.org and I signed up for weekly. I like it to be weekly. I signed up for weekly amounts. I set an amount, and I thought, oh, wait. So recently I wanted to up that amount. And Reverend Johanna, we need to make that easy. I realized, so I upped my amount, but then I realized, I have to cancel the first amount and then go with this next amount. And so we need to make that a one-step, one-stop process where a person can do that easily, or you can just let us know. But I encourage you to give at the level you feel called to, at the level that feels right for you, and to make it regular, So every week I get these reminders on my private email. Thank you for contributing to Unity Church of Hawaii. And sometimes I get these messages from some guy named Reverend Tim Lytle thanking me for... I'm like, what? I'm sending a message to myself to thank me for my giving. So the three things that we ask is that you commit to spiritual growth, through some form of class, education, spirit groups, that you commit to some form of sacred service in this spiritual community and or out in the wider community. Some of you are involved in stuff outside of here, right? A lot of us. So we ask that you do some sacred service. And thirdly, we ask that you contribute on a regular basis as you're able, as what makes sense to you, as you're called. And I'm not going to be calling you up and saying, you need to be giving more, sucker. I'm not going to do that. I just happened to look at you. Isn't that fun? So this is something between you and God. It is something between you and God. We just ask you to say yes to it. So those are the three yeses. And we have, let's see, community member forms. Tina, could you help us with this? So if any of you, and you're not obligated at all, if any of you want one of these forms, I'm not even going to, well, I don't know, I might peek. But if any of you want one of these, just let us know. You don't have to fill this out. But if you're interested in becoming a community member of this spiritual community, you can fill this out now, or maybe you want to pray about it. Maybe you want to think about it. You can take this with you. You can let us know. You can look at this, and you can see, oh, that's all they're asking of me. Makes sense. So Tina is our volunteer coordinator. And Tina, yes. I'm changing your title. I'm changing your title to Sacred Service Coordinator.
Okay, sounds good.
Could you tell us about sacred service here?
Yes, so if you have talents and gifts you want to share, we have plenty of opportunities.
Yes, we do.
Right now we have 14 areas you can share your gifts and talents. Should I real quick go through them?
Sure.
It's about ushering, camera operators, media assistants, courtyard cafe, committees, connection central, facilities and maintenance, youth and family ministry teacher or teacher assistants, groundskeeping, Saturday chapel setup, prayer chaplains, marketing, social media and websites, special events, and community connection manager. Now, if you have any questions about it,
we got opportunities.
We have a lot, yeah. So we have something for everyone, I think. If you have questions, just reach out to me on volunteer@unityhawaii.org or call the office, leave a message, and I get back to you as soon as possible.
And I want to share something with you about Tina. What am I going to share? I've been a minister a long, long time. I've had the opportunity of working with various volunteer coordinators or sacred service coordinators. I've never had the opportunity of working with someone of the skill level, the competence level, the commitment level, the consistency level of Tina. So if you get with her, she will follow through on it. She won't let you fall through the cracks. And if there is a concern that goes on in terms of our sacred service here or things that are happening, believe me, she brings it up to Reverend Johanna and to myself. Stuff does not fall through the cracks. She's on top of it. Can we give her a hand, please? Yeah, she gets a lot of gold stars. So I want to ask, I don't know if there's, is that it with the slides? I think we're done, right? I want to ask if there's any questions, any comments. I mean, I don't know if Reverend Johanna has anything else you'd like to share, or do you? Because you've been sharing some juicy nectar today.
It's because I only got one thing. So, there are these 3 commitments we talk about, but almost an automatic, and later on we will put it on there, but it's prayer.
Thank you.
Yes. So,
duh.
Praying is just our foundation. It's our lifeline. And what we ask each community member, congregant, pray for this community. Pray for one another. Pray for yourselves. And you'll see that this connection, this community will continue to grow. You'll continue to grow. But prayer is just fundamental, and we'll be adding that, I'm sure, sometime soon into the
Someone
yeses.
talked to me about that recently.
I believe it was me on Wednesday.
It was you.
Yeah, and so I really want to emphasize that you'll see a difference in your life. You'll see a difference in this community. Collective prayer is powerful, and that's where we can see humongous shifts happening at this level. And so that's another request.
Thank you. I'm so glad I asked. Anything else you'd like to share with us? I do
have one more thing. And I shared this last time when we had community, what is this called? Orientation. What class am I in right now? It's about the giving portion, because I know, I went to a church a long time ago. I was like 18 or 19 years old. I was in college. And I remember the pastor was like, I'm brand new to the church, and I don't really believe in anything. I'm just, hanging out there with a friend. It's true. And I remember the pastor talking about dig deep, get past that $5 bill and that 20, go get your 100s. And I felt really disconnected because of this money thing. That was almost immediately. I didn't know them and they didn't know me. And yet they wanted a $100 commitment from me on day one. So I actually ended up having a conversation with one of the ushers. And
I can imagine.
I like to fight. So we had this fundamental, conversation about, how we give. But I knew in the moment, there's something else to giving there's a spiritual principle. And when I first started here, we used to have Ho'oponopono. I think it was, Ho'opono. It was where we feed our homeless in the park, or home free.
Right.
And there was this individual. They started, my friends from the park started coming here during Sunday services, and then they caught the idea of what giving can do for their lives. A penny, I would rather accept a penny in joy than, $100 given with resentment or obligation. And so anything given in joy, believe me, in consciousness, it is multiplied. And no matter what that amount is, it's called the law of circulation. What I circulate from me, it automatically, it goes to you. It starts to multiply. When we understand this spiritual, when we start to understand the spiritual laws of giving. And what is it, what do we say? The one, I'm the person, or I give unto myself. Everything that I give unto myself. If we are one in consciousness, what I give forward has no other option but to return to me. And when I can bless it with the feeling of joy, when I can bless it with the power of my spoken word, when I can bless it with the presence of God, it goes on and does mightier things. So that one penny will do mightier things than 100 given in a different consciousness. So just catching the right idea and spiritual principle about giving. And giving also is, we're talking about sacred service of our times, our talents, and our treasures. And when you start to volunteer in community or do sacred service in community, there's something that happens. I mean, there's like this freedom. I didn't realize how much I love serving. Like, I used to think that, I wanted to be a princess and be served, and now there is joy in being of service. So whatever way that you contribute to this community, know that it does go on to bless your life as well.
Right.
The end.
Thank you. I'm glad you came in and gave us that. All right. Okay. Any questions or comments that any of you have about any of what we've brought up today?
Maybe we can share about the opportunity for prayers Monday to Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Monday to Friday. Yeah, every morning. The
At 8 o'clock
at 8
online.
o'clock online. You can pray.
And how do people find that? How do people find the links to all of these opportunities and things we're talking about?
On our website under eCampus. You find it. You find a link, prayer call.
There's little boxes,
Yeah.
and it'll say click here and click here. So if you want to go to the nonviolent communication class, if you want to go to a deeper dive with Reverend Tim, if you want to go to these prayer opportunities, these links are on our eCampus. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. I'm glad you brought that up. It's user-friendly. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, Joey?
I'm going to push my wares.
Push your wares.
Okay. On Saturday morning, from 10 to noon, we do a prayer and process. So we do a prayer and a meditation, and then we do it.
Right here.
Yeah, right here
in person.
In person, yes. And we do processing and sharing, and there's some amazing connections that are being made. And awareness and healing. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And there's another class too, right? 2 o'clock?
Yeah, 2 to 4 we do shadow work.
Right.
Via personal archetypes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I also we had Jerry here, the board president. Our board vice president is here. This is Ralph. He is in our singing group, Zamar. And Ralph is on the board. And so that's, definitely an area of sacred service. Yeah, he talked about the board and what the board is about. And we recently had our board retreat. Had a great time, great connection. You want to say anything about board or?
Well, I would just say that as you're coming on board and being involved with the church, think about the service with the board, because that's one of the most important pieces of a church, is what happens in the background, so that we can do better to bring you what you need here in the foreground. So just think about that as a long-term goal.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Thanks for coming. All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Wow. Well, this has been a real wonderful time here. Reverend Johanna, there was one thing you didn't talk about, and I was hoping you would, and I kept giving you the chance.
Well,
Wednesday nights. What happens here Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock?
the presence of the Lord cometh down here. No, we have
That's true.
Well, I did start with my story that, when I first began, it was with a Wednesday prayer meditation service, and then the rest is history. So on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. here, we have this meditative, prayerful experience where we're just we're praying with one another. No matter what's going on in your life, you can bring a prayer request. You can also sit in meditation. There will be, a good message and reading that happens. There's time to just reflect, to tune in, to tune out all that other noise, and to be around like-minded individuals. And then we'll have our ritual stations. And ritual stations really is just the outward expression of something that's occurring within us. We'll have a burning bowl station. We have the, Hawaiian tea leaf station as well, salt and tea leaf. We have a communion station, and then we have a candle lighting station. And then we have prayer chaplains here as well. There's nice, soft, reflective music that plays, and it's just a time where it has a different energy to it.
It does.
Yeah, it's not Sunday service where we're wild
Very
and crazy and
very quiet.
Yeah, but this is more of a time where you get to commune in that, secret place of the Most High. And you do it in a beautiful environment. You get to hear the pond right there, the water fountain, and it's really nice. And so I'd like to see each one of you there from time to time, every Wednesday, 7 p.m., right here in the chapel.
Right.
And we make it happen.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Johanna, for leading that, and others help with that. And I like to come to those when I'm able to. And Reverend Johanna, I'd like to ask you to pray us out. But before we do that, I just want to say feel free to connect with people before you leave, and I just really appreciate you staying. And those of you who are watching online or who may see this recording, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your interest. And know that when we say that this is our mission, it really is. I mean, my mission really is about people experiencing spiritual transformation. My mission really is to inspire people to make a positive difference in our world. That really is my mission. And so if there's any way in which we can help you with that, please let us know. We're here for you, and we're here for one another. We're here to build beloved community and be that community together. So God bless you. Thank you for coming. And Reverend Johanna, would you pray us out, please?
Yeah, we just take this time, closing the outer eye, centering into our oneness as a community. God, we see that you continue to lift and guide each one of us each day. We are grateful and thankful for those that are here in attendance and those online, knowing that we all together build this beloved community. We thank you in advance for the beautiful gifts that each person brings, the wonderful hearts, the smiles, and the raising of this collective consciousness. We give thanks for this beautiful team, volunteers, community members, and of course, for your presence throughout. And so it is.
So it is.
Amen.
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 Amen. And if any of you wish to become community members, you may turn those in. If you want to take it with you, think about it, pray about it, feel free to do that. Or if you have further questions, just let me know. So thank you. Blessings.